Hey guys, today's video is going to be a quick one. We're covering relational operators, and I'm sure that some of you will be familiar with what we're looking at today, but there's no harm in recapping what you already know. In the last video, we covered arithmetic operators that we can use to calculate values. For those who missed it, I'll put a link in the description. But what can we do with these numbers? Well, we can make use of relational operators to compare values. These kind of comparisons are often found in iterative structures like for loops and while loops, selection structures like ifs, as well as recursion. The first operator we'll look at is equal to. Equal to compares values and, as I'm sure you can imagine, checks if they're the same. As mentioned, we can use these kinds of relational operators in condition statements like ifs. So in this case, we might say that if 12 equals 12, which of course it does, then we'll run a block of code. If this condition isn't true, which in the case of checking if 12 equals 11, then the code won't run. You'll often see in programming languages that the relational operator is denoted with two equals symbols. This is because the single equals is reserved for assignment, but we'll cover that in a later video. Next up, we have not equal to. This can be denoted in one of two ways, either with a greater than and then a less than symbol, or more commonly with an exclamation mark and equals symbol. In this case, 16 doesn't equal 124, so of course this statement evaluates to true, but if we were evaluating 16 is not equal to 16, then it would be false. Less than, as the name implies, checks if one number is less than another. For example, if we did 3 is less than 4, it would evaluate to true. Now less than is not inclusive, so if we did 3 is less than 3, it would evaluate as false. Greater than works much the same as less than, except this time we're checking to see if a number is greater than another. So in this case, we might check if 5 is greater than 1, and of course this statement will evaluate to true. But much like less than, greater than isn't inclusive, so if we did 5 is greater than 5, it would return false. Less than or equal to is denoted with a less than sign followed by an equals and works much the same as less than, except in this case it is inclusive. So for example, if we did 3 is less than or equal to 12, it would evaluate as true, and because it's inclusive this time, if we did 3 is less than or equal to 3, it will also evaluate as true. And finally, greater than or equal to is denoted with a greater than symbol followed by an equals and is also inclusive. So 17 is greater than or equal to 11 is of course true, and 17 greater than or equal to 17 is also true. Now you might be thinking, well, where is this going to be useful? For this example, I'm going to make use of a Boolean operator also, so for those who haven't seen the video on Boolean operators, I'll include a link in the description. Let's say for some reason you wanted to work out if an individual is a teenager based on their age, and then if they are, then you might want to run some code. You know that a teenager is between the ages of 13 and 19, so we can use a conditional statement to check if their age falls within that range, and if it does, then we can run a block of code. So what we might do is check if the age is greater than or equal to 13 and less than or equal to 19. In this case, let's say the individual in question is 13, which of course is greater than or equal to 13, and also meets the condition less than or equal to 19, so we know they're a teenager and we can run the code. Now if the individual is 12 isn't greater than or equal to 13, and though they're less than or equal to 19, because we're applying the AND operator on these two statements, the overall if statement will still evaluate to false, and the code will not run. Now we could choose to formulate this problem slightly differently. Instead of using a greater than or equal to 13 and less than or equal to 19, we might instead want to check if they're greater than 12 and less than 20. This in effect does the same thing, so it's really down to you how you want to formulate the problem. And that wraps things up for this video. I hope it was relatively straightforward. I mean, it might seem a bit basic, but these are super powerful tools and you'll find yourself using them a lot. I hope you found this useful. Thanks for listening.